Breaking tonight, growing concern about the unchecked threat from the world's most dangerous terror group, as the president came out late today and admitted, and I quote, "We don't have a strategy for dealing with these barbarians." Welcome to the Kelly File, everyone. I'm Megyn Kelly. For 4 years now, members of the military and intelligence communities have been watching an al-Qaeda offshoot now known as ISIS. They warned the administration with increasing alarm over the last 12 months as this terrorist army gathered fighters, money, and equipment, and launched a horrific and bloody campaign to capture a portion of Iraq and Syria that is now the size of Belgium. This broadcast covered extensively how ISIS took over the cities of Fallujah and Mosul in reports going back to last January. Then, 10 days ago, the world watched in horror as this group beheaded American journalist James Foley and threatened to decapitate another American hostage in its custody. Here is Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel just 48 hours later.
ISIL is as sophisticated and well-funded as any group that we have seen. They're beyond just a terrorist group. They marry ideology, a sophistication of strategic and tactical military prowess. They are tremendously well-funded. Oh, this is beyond anything that we've seen. So we must prepare for everything.
Beyond anything. Prepare for everything. Want more? Here's Chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Mike Rogers, on this broadcast last night.
Our fear here is that this notion that if we just don't do anything, everything is going to be okay, is going to continue. This is as dangerous a threat matrix as I have ever seen in my time on the Intel Committee, which is about 10 years, Megyn. It is serious.
Then today, as a reminder of who these guys are, we received this video of Syrian soldiers, 250 of them reportedly, captured by ISIS, stripped to their underwear, marched through the desert by their laughing captors, then shot dead and left in a scene we will not show you. Yesterday, the White House assured the public the president has a, quote, comprehensive strategy for dealing with this group. So when word broke today that the president was in the Situation Room and would later make an announcement, it sounded like that strategy might soon be revealed. The president came to the lectern and talked about the economy, the holiday weekend. And when he got around to the terror group ISIS, the president admitted that contrary to yesterday's claim from the White House, he does not yet have a strategy for dealing with this problem. Listen.
I don't want to put the cart before the horse. We don't have a strategy yet. I think what I've seen in some of the news reports suggests that folks are getting a little further ahead of where we're at than we currently are.
We have Fox team coverage tonight with General Jack Keane, Governor Mike Huckabee, Chris Stirewalt, and our own Joe Trippi. But we begin at the White House tonight with Ed Henry. Ed?
Good evening, Megyn. There's one word to describe what happened today, and that's disaster. I know that because I was sitting there, and I heard it with my own ears, and I was stunned. I didn't get called on, but I was stunned that my colleagues who were called on later after he said that didn't follow up and just simply say, why is there no strategy? After a whole line of officials have said this is a grave disaster. Chuck Hagel saying this is worse than al-Qaeda pre-9/11. The second reason why I know it's a disaster is that ever since the president uttered it, the White House has been in damage control mode. I've gotten phone calls on Twitter. Josh Earnest was out there saying, here's what he was really saying. And then a press release just came out a couple moments ago about the president's meeting in the Situation Room, and the readout said that he discussed the, quote, comprehensive strategy to deal with ISIS. So they're now saying tonight the president spoke with his team about a comprehensive strategy he said a few hours ago he did not have. Now, the important context we should note is he was being asked about Syria. And earlier in this news conference, the president did say, in fact, he has a military strategy to deal with Iraq. And we've seen more than 100 U.S. airstrikes there. But he was being pressed about Syria and why haven't you gone to Congress? And frankly, he uttered something that was just honest. He said, I can't go to Congress and sell a plan I don't have yet. I don't have a strategy for Syria yet. So this is a problem. One final note I made. Last night I reported that amid all of this crisis, the president tomorrow is going to Rhode Island to fundraise. That caught your interest. I want to correct one thing. It's not just Rhode Island. We now learn he's going to Westchester, New York tomorrow to fundraise as well. So I was right, it's Rhode Island, but he's also going to be fundraising in New York. 2 stops, fundraisers tomorrow after all of this, Megyn.
Not to worry. Now they do have a comprehensive strategy. Not to worry. Ed, thank you.
Good to see you.
Joining me now, General Jack Keane. He's chairman of the Institute for the Study of War and a Fox News military analyst. General, good to see you tonight. I mean, what do you make of the president? Now the White House trying to dial it back through Josh Earnest, but we heard it from the president's own lips. What do you make of the revelation that we have no strategy for dealing with this terror army?
Well, it's an extraordinary and stunning admission coming from a leader of the world's most powerful nation. And you know, as such, Megan, it's embarrassing also. As you pointed out in the introduction, we know a lot about ISIS. They reemerged in 2009 and 2010 in earnest in Iraq. They moved into Syria in a comprehensive way in 2011. They've been there for 3 years, taking control of territory. They were a growing menace every single month, increasing in territorial control and imposing their harsh governance. Our intel agencies have been watching them all this time. The Institute of the Study of War, we've tracked them on a daily basis. We've shared information with intelligence agencies, with the Department of State, with the Department of Defense. Everybody in our government and the national security business knows this organization and what a significant threat it is to the Middle East, which is attacking our vital interests and also to our country. We need a comprehensive strategy, and I fear that we may not get one.
The president, even though he uttered those words, seemed to then go on to outline what he's thinking right now. He suggested that, yes, we need to have a military presence there, and he's asked for recommendations from Chuck Hagel and General Dempsey on what that should be. He suggested that we needed to get new leadership in place in Iraq, which has now happened, because otherwise, we need the right political leadership in place. And he talked about building a coalition of forces, so it's not just the United States. And by the way, Secretary of State John Kerry is over there right now. Here is how the president outlined what he's thinking so far, and in particular, I'd like to get your thoughts on how he said, look, we can do all the military stuff we want in the world, but it's not going to do anything unless we follow through and get a coalition. Listen to the president.
Our military is the best in the world. We can rout ISIS on the ground and keep a lid on things temporarily, but then as soon as we leave, the same problems come back again. This should be a wake-up call to Sunni, to Shia, to everybody, that a group like ISIS is beyond the pale. We've got to all join together, even if we have differences on a range of political issues, to make sure that they're rooted out.
How's that sound to you, General?
Well, I agree with much of that. The fact of the matter is we do need to lead a coalition, particularly from the region, but also with other allies. It has to transcend political, diplomatic, economic, and military. But you do have to go out there and attack them. You have to destroy what they have, and you have to wind up killing and capturing a lot of them. We've done this before. But the fact of the matter is we have to assist our allies there. The fact is, the Free Syrian Army, we should robustly arm them and train them and stop doing half measures, which we're currently doing. The people on the ground in Iraq that are going to lead this, so the Iraqi army will lead it with Peshmerga. Sunni tribal leaders will participate as they are in Anbar province, and also the Shia. Here's what we don't know, though, Megan. We will lead the air strikes. I'm convinced we'll eventually get to do it. We'll have coalition partners doing it, and it will be effective. But we cannot defeat ISIS with those airstrikes alone. The only way you can do that is the combination of a ground force supported by air power. The ground force are going to be others that we are going to support, and we do not know if they're going to be effective. That is the unknown question here, and we're just going to have to see. And we don't know either how long it's going to take.
Why do you think the president said he has no strategy, given that he's clearly being briefed on all of this? There's no way General Dempsey doesn't have an idea of what to go in and do militarily.
I think he made that statement because he hasn't made a decision about what to do. And I think that was an honest reflection of that. I mean, I know for a fact that there's military campaign strategy that the Pentagon has that's been developed by Central Command Headquarters at Tampa, Florida. They have regional responsibility here, and along with that, obviously, they would also have a range of options. So inside the national security apparatus, I'm convinced there's a lot of thinking going on, but I believe he hasn't got it as involved as they are, and number two, he hasn't made any decisions, and I think that was an honest answer. He didn't have a strategy. And That is what is so embarrassing after all this time, that we're not conversant with this to the degree that we could really talk about it in some level of detail, even though he may not have made a final decision.
Sure, he'll be mulling it over at the fundraisers tomorrow. General, thank you.
Always good talking to you, Megyn.
Look, I know the president's fundraise. They all do it. They have to do it to keep their party in power, which they think is important to keeping their policies in place. But is now the time? We're going to have a fair and balanced debate on that in just a bit. While we're waiting to learn the details of the president's strategy, when he comes up with it, for taking on this terror group, we do have new details on his fundraising trip tomorrow. As I said, we'll discuss it fair and balanced. Plus, we now have 3 young Americans killed after deciding to fight along this terror group, right? They died because they chose to go fight with ISIS and die. All from Minnesota. Pete Hegseth is from that very area. We will ask him why he thinks his home state is becoming a prime recruiting spot for terror groups. And as we see disturbing new videos of ISIS captives literally march to their graves, we will ask Governor Mike Huckabee about the president's suggestion that other Muslim nations need to do more here.
For us, we believe that this generation of children is the generation of the caliphate. God willing, this generation will fight infidels and apostates, the Americans and their allies, God willing.